The Sisters of Providence of St. Mary of the Woods, Indiana, were founded by St. Mother Theodore Guerin in 1840. As a congregation of Roman Catholic women religious, the sisters are called by God to be witnesses to the gospel of Jesus. At the invitation of Bishop Simon Broutet of the Diocese of Vincennes, Sister Theodore Guerin and 5 sisters traveled from their mother house in Rouillé-sur-Loire, France in 1840. Mother Theodore and the women who soon joined her established over a dozen schools in Indiana and Illinois, as well as 2 orphanages and 2 pharmacies where medicine was dispensed free to the poor. Ministering on the American frontier, Saint Mother Theodore was the spiritual and temporal leader of her congregation. In 2006, Pope Benedict XVI canonized Saint Mother Theodore Guerin as America's 8th Catholic saint. The Sisters of Providence have continued her legacy, eventually expanding their ministry throughout the United States, the District of Columbia, and briefly in Latin America. They were the first American women's congregation to found a mission in China, which continues today in ministries in Taiwan. Also today, the Sisters of Providence focus on issues such as adult literacy, racism, poverty, violence, and sustainability. More than 5,200 women have entered the order since 1840. What Mother Theodore began continues to honor divine providence and to further God's loving plans through works of love, mercy, and justice in service among God's people. Sisters of Providence, their Providence associates, and ministry partners collaborate with others to create a more just and hope-filled world through prayer, education, service, and advocacy. Sponsorship of ministries is a particular way the congregation exerts its influence for good. The stories that follow showcase 5 institutions and ministries that the Sisters of Providence sponsor. One sponsored institution, St. Mary of the Woods College, continues the ministry of the academy founded by Mother Theodore in 1841. As a co-educational Catholic liberal arts college, St. Mary of the Woods College seeks to empower all students to meld intellect and spirituality, direct ambition, attain goals, and stretch beyond the imagination. In other words, to aspire higher.
We are so intertwined and that I can't imagine as ever being thought of very separately. I don't think the college would be what it is without the Sisters of Providence involved in it. And I can't imagine the Sisters of Providence without the college. Since we share a legacy all the way back to 1840, since we share a foundress, sharing a common space, and sharing really the same alums. The alums of the college are the alums of the Sisters of Providence. I once asked the question, how did Guerin Hall and the conservatory, how were those opened? You know, they were built during the same time frame, and they opened in 1913 together. And I know the struggles of raising money and building one building, so I can't imagine 2 at a time. And then the materials in them are so significant. You know, they're just beautiful buildings. And so I asked the question, how did that happen? And of course, there was the normal fundraising activities that were going on, and so there were external supporters, but I also learned that sisters who were ministering, you know, in lots of different schools all over the United States were already living on an allowance But they were choosing to live even a more meager existence so that they could save more money and send it back and contribute to the building of these two buildings. So I suspect there were lots of peanut butter sandwiches eaten and little small luxuries gone without. We have ring day that's so ceremonial and it means so much to the students, and it's in the church in a ceremony. But the recent students have developed an addendum to that ceremony. They go out to the statue of St. Mother Theodore, and they do it one at a time, and they take their ring off and they put it in her hand. And then they take a picture of their ring in her hand. And then they take a picture of themselves with the statue, and then they take it out. And I think, you'd have to ask each one what that little ceremony means to them, but I think what they're indicating is at least that they completely identify with St. Mother Theodore, and I think they think the ring comes from her.
The congregation also sponsors 2 high schools, Garin College Prep outside of Chicago in River Grove, Illinois, and Providence Cristo Rey in Indianapolis. Providence Spirituality and Conference Center is a sponsored ministry of the Sisters of Providence, also located at St. Mary of the Woods. A full schedule of spiritual programs, retreats, workshops, and prayer opportunities are offered year-round. Both the shrines of St. Mother Theodore Garin, the foundress of the Sisters of Providence, and Our Lady of Providence, Queen of the Home, are part of the outreach of the center. Tours and pilgrimages also are offered regularly. The development of the Linden Leaf gift shop to reflect the spirituality and values of the center is an integral part of the ministry.
I've always been very attracted to a lot of what the sisters are doing, simply because I know their great love for social justice in the world, and that speaks very much to me. I believe strongly that as a follower of Christ, we are to try to work with God and with each other to make the world God's realm on earth as much as possible, and I definitely see that with the sisters. I started to attend the first prayer services in the style of Taizé when that began a few years ago, and some of the sisters asked me if I would be interested in becoming part of that planning team. And I jumped at the opportunity because I love prayer and I love designing worship services, so that was a wonderful fit for me. People want something deeper. People want to feel closer to what I know to be God. And I think that the sisters offer so many wonderful opportunities, not just with retreats and book discussions. I had the wonderful opportunity to attend a dance and movement retreat several years ago. Loved it, and very much felt that that was maybe an untapped part of my own life, because I had been a dancer when I was younger, and thought, why hadn't I connected that with my relationship with God? So I think that they offer so many wonderful different, very perhaps academic things, but also other things that make sure you move and you're doing crafts or art, whatever it might be, so that it's very holistic. The sisters have just an incredible impact. I think that the ministries they do are life-giving and life-affirming, and I appreciate that very much.
Another sponsored ministry located at St. Mary of the Woods is White Violet Center for Eco-Justice. The mission of White Violet Center is teaching, caring, inspiring for all creation. The center regularly offers educational workshops, eco-spirituality retreats, and internship, sabbatical, and volunteer opportunities. Thanks to the presence of a herd of alpacas and acres of organic gardens, the center is able to provide ecological justice education, organic agriculture, and fiber education. not to mention the fact that the alpacas quickly become favorites of all who visit.
Well, a big part of their mission and ministry is healing, and that includes healing the earth. And so we're doing that by actually working here sustainably, working with animals that are gentle on the land, doing organic farming, but also from an education standpoint. We educate other people in the community. We've educated our friends because we had much more normal lives before I was in banking. She was in preschool. So our friends are watching us with a lot of interest. Like, they really are doing some different but interesting stuff. They're really curious about what we're doing. So we can tell them why we're doing this and why the sisters do this, more importantly. Why they sponsor this ministry, why they have earmarked so much of their land for this. And then we just get to teach them about love, too, and how we've been kind of welcomed in open-armed by all these beautiful ladies who do all these beautiful things. And you know, it doesn't matter whether, you know, we're Catholic, not Catholic, what religion we are, whether we're married, whether we're single. We've seen them welcome us in. We see them welcome other interns in. And it's just a great opportunity to show love, but to also teach love for people and for the earth. So it's an important piece, I think.
But the whole thing is such a great learning experience, and you're just surrounded by so much kindness. And this, you know about things that you're going to learn, but there's so much wealth of knowledge that you're going to get that you had no idea that was going to be a part of the internship.
I mean, it's incredible. From Candace and her knowledge of plants and beneficial bacteria, good insects, bad insects, sustainable farming methods. David, who's been doing farming since he was a kid. Went to grad school in Louisiana, so he knows everything from cows to gators. Robin, and she knows herbology and making home remedies.
Tracy, who has such a wealth of knowledge about the alpacas and has basically been around for, I think, 13 years. So, I mean, and this is just kind of how everybody is. Their personalities are so well-rounded. And I think a lot of it is being able to be out here and being able to work out in nature, but it also just makes you so aware of the world around you, and you want to capture that beauty in some way, and you want to be a part of it. And so, yeah, it's so inspiring just to be around them on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, they're great educators and definitely a reflection of their environment. No doubt about it.
The Sisters of Providence, along with a coalition of Catholic congregations of religious, also advocates for justice through Eighth Day Center for Justice in Chicago, a critical alternative voice to oppressive systems. Justice outreach is happening at our sponsored ministry in California, Providence in the Desert. Providence in the Desert is a grassroots educational ministry sponsored by the Sisters of Providence. The program serves immigrant farm worker families living in the thermal Mecca area of the desert in Southern California. Most of the families live in isolated trailer parks. Providence in the Desert provides English as a new language instruction for adults, music lessons for children, and other outreach services as needed.
It's called the Coachella Valley. At the west end of Coachella Valley is Palm Springs, which is very famous, and then there's a series of towns of varying degrees of wealth, and they don't in general get poorer, but Coachella is down at the bottom, and thermal, and then it goes downward from there. There are lots of people who live there, immigrants, who don't speak English. They work in the fields. There's a lot of agriculture down there. And it's difficult for them to go someplace because they're very isolated. And so we decided we would go to them and find them and give them an opportunity to learn English.
these sisters basically come and empower the community, or they empower the persons individually, so they will be a better persons for themselves, for their families, and especially for their community.
Opportunities for growth that the Sisters of Providence have given are just phenomenal, just phenomenal.
Similar outreach to the economically poor takes place at sponsored ministries in West Terre Haute. Providence Pantry through food distribution, and Connecting Link by providing information and referrals for services. In the West Humboldt Park community of Chicago, Providence Family Services serves families through bilingual counseling, after-school tutoring, and English as a second language classes. A healing ministry concentrating on services to children, families, and older adults occurs at our sponsored ministry at Georgetown in southern Indiana, Providence Self-Sufficiency Ministries. This 28-acre multi-generational campus has unique family preservation programs for abused and neglected children and offers leading-edge services for older adults. This ministry is the only one of its kind in Indiana and includes Providence House, The Meadows, and Garin Woods.
I was seeking a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving the needs of the older adult and whose mission and values were in accord with my own. I have a high standard and great expectations of what's possible with elder care. To my delight, I found that the Villas of Garin Woods exceeded them from the first day. It was actually an acquaintance who said to me in passing, "You would be a great fit at the Villas of Garin Woods." Thinking back on her comment, I see it as the still small voice of God, and I'm so glad I was listening.
Providence Healthcare at St. Mary of the Woods, another Sister of Providence sponsored institution, oversees the operations of 2 healthcare facilities, both open to the public. Miracle Home in Taiwan serves low-income clients who are elderly or disabled. Other Sisters of Providence serve in parishes, hospitals, schools, and organizations throughout the United States and in Asia. No matter our time in history, it could not be clearer. Sisters of Providence come together as vowed women and join together with others to honor the divine, to make Providence known, to be love, mercy, and justice in this world.